Elizabeth at A Literary Princess. If you are new here, welcome. I'm a 6-year PhD candidate in English literature with a focus on Victorian women novelists, and as you might expect, I love to read. Today I have my December TBR for you, which seems unreal because I don't understand how December got here already, and I'm not very happy about it. I lost a whole week of November due to having COVID, so that has put things behind very much, particularly for my dissertation. So I'm stressed. Shocking. So a lot of these books are going to be from previous month's TBRs or just really previous month's TBRs that I haven't gotten to yet. I basically went through my 50 books I wanted to read this year and was like, okay, what have I not read? And so many of them were Victorian classics that are like several hundred pages long. And I was like, girl, you messed up. But, oh well, we'll see how much of this I can get through in the month of December before the end of 2024. Let's jump in. First up is one that was on my nonfiction November TBR. This is Richard and John, Kings at War by Frank McLynn. So this is about Richard the Lionheart and that time period, which is probably more commonly known as like the Robin Hood time period. I didn't get to this in November, obviously. Again, I lost an entire week having COVID. I also just took really long with my other nonfiction book that I'm still reading and will hopefully be finishing before the end of November. But I am excited to get to this. It belonged to my brother. I gave it to him. It was one of his favorite books. And I'm excited to learn about a time period that I know literally nothing about. Now we are moving into some classics, and first up is going to be one by Ouida, who is one of my dissertation authors. Now in November I had Princess Napraxine by Ouida on my TBR, and I said I was going to read this because after my last Ouida book, Ariadne, I was not pleased with her. However, the book that I should be reading by her, since I am writing a dissertation chapter supposedly on her Italian novels, is Pasquerel, or Only a Story. This is I believe the first of her Italian novels, and it's one that Henry James was like, you could almost think it good if you didn't have the rest of her works on the page, on the first page, letting you know about how awful everything else was. I'm like, wow, Henry James, you suck. I hate you. Even though I have like a bajillion of your books. So I'm basically just gonna read to you this sentence from like the little introduction that my Delphi collected works of Ouida has. It says that a central message of the story is that art and culture as entertainment and diversion is as important to the health of society as any moral message it might also convey, and that a balance must be found between artistic altruism and commercialism in culture. So that actually has a lot to do with the topic of my dissertation. I am arguing that a lot of these women writers have been left out of the canon because they supposedly wrote too much. And this idea of writing too much is tied very heavily with commercialism and writing for a wide middle-class audience instead of just more an elite upper and upper middle class audience that's educated, writing for the masses. So popular fiction instead of high culture fiction. So this does actually sound like it can be useful. I just really hope it's better than Ariadne because that was a rough go. It was a really rough go. Another Victorian classic is The Way We Live Now by Anthony Trollope. This was on my Victober TBR for the past 2 years, and I still haven't gotten to it. I really want to get to this one. I think other than Pasquerel, this is probably my top priority for December. It also, I feel like I can say that it counts as dissertation work because one of the characters, Lady Carberry, is a woman writer, and she's kind of satiric, and Trollope's kind of making fun of her. So I think that'll be really interesting and could be potentially helpful for my dissertation. I'm just really excited to read this. I've heard it's so amazing, but like also chunky. Very, very chunky. And frankly, I think Pasquarelle is chunky too. So yeah. Next up is another from the November TBR that did not get read. This is The Stranger by Albert Camus, or L'Étranger, because I have it in French. One of my goals for the year was to read 2 books in French. I have read 1. This would be number 2. I really do want to try this. It's not that long, but you know, it's in my second language, which is always difficult. Due to the whole having COVID for a week and all that, I didn't even attempt it for November, but I would like to try for December. And then we have 2 that have not been on any previous TBRs. So the first one is one that I've been thinking of reading for an event, but the event does not seem to be happening because I have not seen any announcement videos on it. And that event is the Remember December Rereadathon. It happened last year. It was hosted by a bunch of different people, and I can't remember. It was like at least 6 hosts. And it was all about rereading. And I loved it. I reread the Chronicles of Narnia and had a great time. So I've been thinking like, oh, what book do I want to reread for it? And now it doesn't seem to be happening. However, I think I still want to reread a book that I haven't read since I was younger and make one of my rereading as an adult videos on it. And this book is Watership Down by Richard Adams. I first read this when I was 10 years old for a book report, and then I read it again when I was 12 years old for another book report. I also saw the movie really, really young, like too young for it. The movie is nightmare fuel. Like, it's terrifying and traumatizing. So, yeah. But I was obsessed with this book, and I did really like the movie, even though it traumatized me as well. Like, it was one I kept being like, I want to watch it again. But then I'd be terrified, and my mom would have to be in the room with me. It was a whole thing. It's fine. So I really want to revisit this as an adult and, you know, just take a look and see what I notice this time. There are so many scenes in this that I remember so clearly. And character names, too. I had a stuffed animal that I named after one of the very few female rabbits in this. Hazendlay, I think her name is. Their names are all kind of weird. They have their whole own language. It's really interesting. I think there's a glossary in the back. Yes, there is. But I really want to reread this and see what I notice. And like also try to figure out, is this actually a children's book? Like, is this something you should be giving to a 10-year-old? Because I don't really think it is. So we will be talking about that in a video, hopefully. And the final book of the TBR is actually a fairy tale retelling because I am behind on my fairy tale retellings. I wanted to read 6. I've currently read 4. Well, technically I've read more, but some of the other ones are from the library and they actually go into a separate category on my spreadsheet. Yes, I have a spreadsheet. You'll see the whole thing at the end of the year when I'm doing all that. But so for the 6 fairy tales that I had originally planned to, fairy tale retellings that I had originally planned to read, I've read 4 of them, and then one I'm currently in the middle of. But then the 6th one turned out to not be a fairy tale retelling. It faked me out. So I need one more. So I decided I'm going to pick up Before Midnight by Cameron Doki. This is part of the Once Upon a Time series, and they're just super short, really easy, young adult, probably even more, like middle grade to young adult retellings. I read one earlier in the year, The Night Dance, which was a 12 Dancing Princesses retelling. This is obviously a Cinderella retelling. I mean, it should be a good time. They're not like the best, as what I've noticed. I've read 2 of them so far, The Night Dance earlier this year and then The Rose Bride a few years ago. But they are fun and also short and easy. So that is my December TBR, the final TBR for 2024. Let me know down in the comments, what are you reading for December? Have you read any of these? What did you think of them? If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to see more of my bookish content. It has been great chatting with you. I will see you soon. Bye.